Hi,
Oh,
Phil.
Joel.
What's going on?
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Nice to meet you. Where are you coming out of?
I am in Maryland, just south of Baltimore,
Okay.
between Baltimore and Washington, D.C.
I'm really actually very happy about the Orioles this year.
Oh, that's great. Well,
Uh,
you're in Kansas, right?
I'm in Kansas City. Yeah.
Yeah, I was listening to one of your most recent podcasts that was posted,
Oh, cool.
where you were talking about. So I have family there, and
Okay.
I'm very familiar with the area from a personal and a business side.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. Yeah, it's kind of a hidden gem. If you've never been here, there's this perception that we're just kind of a cow town. Um, but I think probably Mahomes and those guys are changing things a little bit. So, but yeah,
Yeah,
no, are
well, for a
you
while there, the Royals were really good years ago. So
Yeah, really. I know. And I remember we played the Orioles before we went to the series in 15. We were right there on the doorstep. So I
yeah,
just
well, even though I've been here in this area since 1988, but I'm born and raised in Chicago.
okay, I
So I
gotcha.
grew up as a Cubs fan.
There you go. My son's
And
stepdad's a Cubs fan, and I thought they were gonna make it this year. I was like, what happened? It's baseball.
yeah,
It's a long season.
well, yeah, the Cubs don't want to, they've selected to win once every 105 years or
That's
something.
right.
So yeah,
That's right. That's a long pill to swallow. But well,
yeah.
man, Paul, it's great to meet you. And I want to begin our conversation with what we've gone through for the last 3.5 years with COVID. How did you get through that time period? And how did it change things for you?
Okay. Yeah, mine's a dynamic change
Okay.
because I exited the corporate world and started my own business during that time.
Okay.
And it was really not because of COVID. It might have happened anyways, but it was everything had a factor, right? It was dynamic in in um, in how it happened. So, um, has this officially started? Are we
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
this
I
now?
usually just dive
Oh,
right
okay,
into it. Yeah.
okay, great. So yeah, so Joe, so I started. Um, I was in the corporate world for um, since 1980,
Hmm.
and so over 40 years, and always in sales and all sales management, sales leadership, in the professional side. And I had worked for companies like Sony. I was there 23 years. That was my career job. Started as a salesperson, and I was vice president of sales and their business to government side for a long time there. And that's kind of my claim to fame in that time. But when I retired from there in 2009, I went into working for an engineering company, head of sales and marketing, and then moved on to working for another U.S. based company and was responsible for four sales or sales related groups for them. And then there were some political changes there. And as a result, I moved on and I was working for a company based in France. And I set up their U.S. operations here in the United States, specifically in Maryland. And because it was close to my house. And then then went on during COVID. There was an Israeli company that couldn't get into the country. So they needed representation on the sales side here in the United States. So I took on the role of VP of sales for them here in the United States during that time. And it's during this time is when I started Bindera Consulting Services. And it wasn't totally focused on what that was going to be. So I was doing project work like I was doing for them, representing them. And I did some work for other customers during that time doing different types of sales related things for their business. And but I really couldn't define for you, Joe, or anybody else, or even myself, on what the company was really going to be.
Yeah.
And then last November, I focused it. I was talking to some people, and I focused on sales coaching. And I'll explain the difference between coaching and training here in a second. But to answer your question, this is what changed everything. So it wasn't necessarily because of COVID, but it was
Sure.
during COVID, and COVID affected everything. and
Yeah.
how you do business and how you go about doing business. And it's an interesting time to start a business.
Yeah.
But it really resonated and focused. And my business went from kind of doing projects. So, Joe, I'm going to have a business card made that says Phil Whitebloom, retirement failure. And because I tried to retire
Yeah.
and
Didn't work.
and then I that this what I started as a hobby, kind of something to keep me busy during retirement, turned into a real thriving business like very quickly. So I've been so that's what changed everything. I got three clients after a first introductory meeting at a networking event with the Chamber of Commerce, and it's just been going ever since. So I've been building this business after the fact, if you will. I had clients before I had infrastructure. So this whole year is dedicated to keeping working with clients, but building all the infrastructure that goes along with running a real business.
So
So
let's
I hope that answered your question.
it did, and that opens up the door to what you said about the difference between coaching and training. So what I want to do is I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders, and one of the kids looks up and says, "What do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
Okay. So I'm going to answer that way in a way a third grader will understand. And hopefully the third grader is a sports fan. And let's say specifically baseball.
Yeah.
Um, so you could watch YouTube and you could go to games and you could watch baseball and you could learn the rules and you could enjoy the game and learn, what it's like to, you could watch pitchers and you could watch batters and fielders, right? And you're going to have a nice experience. But will that make you a baseball player? And so training, there's a lot of really good I would say thousands of really good training programs that are out there that have been put out there for years. And there's a ton of really good sales trainers, and I'm really big on training. Coaching is different though, because training is linear. Joe, you start at the beginning of the process, like getting in the door, and then you go through all the steps all the way through to eventually asking for the order or closing the business. And there's many, many things within there. So that's a linear process, and you learn that. But will that help people now? Will that help their businesses now with what their needs are today, where their businesses, where their salespeople's skills are or aren't? And so as a coach, I work with them in the moment in real time. So I interview them and I find out what their needs are. I learn about their business. I learn about their strengths. I learn about their challenges. And we work on that and where they want to go and where they want to be. And I have to tell you, Joe, I could give you a couple of examples, but is that it's not unusual for an executive of a company to hire me for a very specific thing. And when I get in there, I find out that that's not their problem, that it's actually something else. So I end up there working with them on something else. So the short answer to my long explanation here is that coaching includes training, but training doesn't include coaching.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So what did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream to grow up and become?
Veterinarian.
Okay. Wonderful. So so talk to me a little bit about how the sales bug got into you. How did this become your life? Were you from originally, and how did that develop in you?
So I'm originally from the Chicago area,
Yeah.
and that had nothing to do with the sales bug. And I went to school in Wisconsin, graduated from the University of Wisconsin, Oshkosh, in business with an emphasis in marketing. But I was going through everything to be a veterinarian, and that's why I went to that particular university at the time. Because when I worked at Lincoln Park Zoo in Chicago as a teenager, the the director of the zoo said, "Hey, Phil, becoming a veterinarian is one of the most difficult professions to get in the country. There's very few schools. There's a lot of demand. You have to have straight A's." And so I went to it. He said, you need to have a plan. You need to have a backup plan. So my backup plan was business. So I ended up going to UW Oshkosh because at the time they had a business school and they had a pre-veterinary program. And when I got a C in chemistry, that was the end of my veterinary journey. And so I shifted immediately over to business, and I was very active in the university. We had a very big, highly functional and productive student activities board, which I was very active in for 3.5 years there. And I got into it that way, and then I got my first job professionally in sales, and I never left. Never left. I was in sales all the way through.
Wow. So who's been a hero for you in your life?
Oh, I got to tell you, it's going to be a different answer than you might think. So for my heroes, I mean, from sports, I was always Dick Butkus growing up. Any young kids will have no idea who I'm talking about, but for me, he was probably with a few others, the all-time greatest defensive players of all times, and
Yeah.
being in Chicago. But I like people like John Glenn.
Yeah.
It's really somebody. So what I like about John Glenn is if people were watching this on video, you'd see in my background, I have some astronomy stuff behind. That's my primary hobby. It's been for a very long time, big time into it. And so I've been interested in space since the Apollo program and the first launches, the moon landing, the whole thing. And John Glenn was an astronaut. John Glenn is a military hero. Before that, John Glenn went into the United States Senate, and he's been all through public life. He's been doing good for others, and he was scandal free his entire life.
Yeah.
He stayed out of the news for negative reasons. He was a very honest person, filled with integrity, and did really good things for everybody around him. And so I would say John Glenn is my guy.
So if you can meet anybody alive on the planet right now and spend some time with them, someone that inspires you, who would it be?
Taylor Swift.
Oh, wow. Okay.
How's that for a switch?
I like it. That is a big
We send you
switch.
to a chiropractor to fix your neck after that.
Yeah. Well, I've been, being a Chiefs fan, like that's all we hear about here is the whole Kelsey Taylor Swift
Right.
thing.
But I'll tell you why. And it's not only because she's a great performer and everything. I just believe that she is, as a human being, well beyond her years as
Yeah.
far as wisdom and stuff. Her business practices, her the way that she gives back to her fans, and she's open, and it's always good news after this, and she's got all the success, and she's got every reason to go over the top and become arrogant and egotistical, and she's done none of that stuff that's visible to me as a casual fan. But as a fan of her as a human being, that would be the one person that I would love to talk to. I mean, she stood up to Apple, when they had that dispute about putting her music
Yeah.
on Apple products, and she won.
Yeah.
I mean, who does that, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I like Apple, by the way, so
Yeah.
I'm an Apple user. So,
Yeah.
but I think she's just got it all going for her, and it's to her credit. It's not by accident.
For sure. So Phil, throughout all these years and up to today, what has been the motivation for you? What gets you out of bed and what makes you accomplish what you want to get done with your life?
There is no greater thrill than watching somebody do something better than they were and watching their reactions from being that when knowing that it was me that helped them to get there. That it was, and I have to tell you, sometimes it is the smallest things um, that turn people around. And I, one of my clients is an insurance agency, and one of the people within the agency, one of the salespeople, she was just having trouble getting in the door. It was just something simple like that, and I helped her with a way to take it a whole different approach to it. Now, when she got on to meet with me at the next meeting, it wasn't like she made millions of dollars in new sales or anything else like that. But she was so excited that she was all of a sudden able to get in the door easily with people, where it was just fail after fail after fail. Because remember, sales is one of the very few professions where rejection is part of which is a dominant part of the game. No matter how good you are, it doesn't mean they're rejecting you personally, but not everybody has a need for your product. Not everybody's ready for it. Not everybody wants to see you. Maybe somebody doesn't even like you. That's usually the smallest percentage, but rejection's a really big part, and it could be fatiguing, and it could be demoralizing and demotivating. But what gets me up and going is when I watch people light up. I just had one of those meetings this morning, Joe, on actually a very similar topic, but it was a face-to-face meeting with somebody, and for her business. And at the result of that, she said, "Hey, will you speak to a group that I'm part of on this topic?" So watching people improve or get on something new and benefit from it immediately is such a great thing. And I really look forward to it, which is why I do all this stuff, including responding to your kind invitation for me to be with you today.
So let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into a 20-year-old version of yourself. You can give that young version of you one piece of advice based on the wisdom you've gained in your life up to this point. What advice would you give your younger self?
Take more chances. Don't get so wrapped up in your own head with being conservative from how worried about too many things. The worst thing that could happen if you try something and fail is that you get the opportunity to start over again. And if you take more chances, I might have been much more of an entrepreneur for the last 40 years than I am today if I would have given myself that advice, because I was
Yeah,
always in a very fixed corporate world with that cushion of all this process around me.
yeah.
As an entrepreneur, you got to do it all yourself. Yeah, but I love every minute of this.
So are you a baseball fan?
I am a fan of baseball. I used to be, when I had more time, know everything that was going on, but that was a long time ago. So
So let's do this. And you mentioned Dick Butkus. Let's just go back into sports history. If you could go back in time and see one game, be it one event, where would you go? What would you love to see with your own eyes?
I would like to go back to the first Super Bowl with where the Packers played, and it changed. Um, it just changed football in a maybe all the sports
Yeah,
because of what that meant for the sporting world. I mean, when football was around a very 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 long time before there was a Super Bowl. That started in the 1960s, and and so they had championship games and everything else. But when the American Football Conference and the National Football Conference got together and had made the Super Bowl, it changed everything in that game. And just the environment that it was played in the cold and the snow and all this other stuff. I would love to have been there for that,
yeah,
especially knowing what I know today.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So of all of the things that you've done in your life up to this point, what are you the proudest of?
Oh, there's a lot of good things there. Um, I'm proudest. I'll give you two answers, if I may, from one from a professional side and one from a community service side.
Sure.
So I'm really proud of, almost to the point of being teary eyed, of having been able to work with the people that I was able to manage as a sales manager, whatever the fancy title was, whether it was just regional sales manager or vice president of sales, and really work with them and stand by them. I mean, I'm really proud of the fact, Joe, that I had one group that stayed with me for 15 years through all the reorganizations and everything else. I had this core group that we were together. I mean, we were a well-oiled machine. It's like together we could argue with each other, but nobody from the outside should ever say anything bad about the group. But watching them go and how loyal they were to me, and how I went way out of my way whenever they knew that I had their back, and I would be their buffer and I would support them through good and through bad, but we were very successful together, and I'm really proud of that, and still proud of being able to help young people. And so this kind of plays in. For the last 18 years, I've been going back to the University of Wisconsin in Oshkosh and guest teaching and speaking and meetings. In fact, it's coming up again in a few weeks at their College of Business and in other areas, radio, TV, film, astronomy, and things like that, and giving back. They don't pay me to do that. I do that because they keep asking me to come back, and I love doing it, and helping the students understand that, using me as an example, that was in their chair more than 40 years ago, in the same business school, that this is what their future could look like. And it's really really something I'm totally proud of, is
Yeah.
having the opportunity to work with these people, lead these people, watch them grow, watch them succeed, and I learn from them constantly.
Yeah.
And then my community service life, things that I've done in my religious organizations and leading that, and starting being a founding member of a charity to help adults with cognitive disabilities become independent earners, and still doing part of that, ASPE.org, ASPEartist.org. And there's just a lot of good things, but it's always about helping others.
Yeah, for sure. So everyone out there has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, colleagues, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Well, the perception others have me is I'm always telling jokes. So, so you got to just be careful on what you say because you never know what's going to come out of my mouth next.
Yeah.
I'm under real good control right now. So the perception is one is I'm totally honest. I mean, they know that. They know if they'll ask for something, if I could do it, that I'll do it. Um, I have my priorities in order. I've never sacrificed family for anything. Doesn't mean that you can make everything all the time when you're in my line of work, but I made, well over 90% of everything that I needed to be at for the family. And so I think that's it. And I work hard.
Yeah.
I work
So
hard.
if anyone wants to reach out to you, hire you, learn more about you, where's the best place for them to go?
Thank you for asking. The best place is to go to my website, which is been there, bin, THERE, C as in consulting, S as in services. So bintherecs.com. And you can find everything else I do right through that website.
Right
That'll
on.
be, and contact me there.
Excellent. Phil, thank you so much. I appreciate you giving us your story. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you very much. Once again, I'm so grateful for you to ask me. It's a real honor, especially in reviewing all the other people that you've had on before me. So I'm humbled to be in that group.
Absolutely.
Thank
Thank you. This has been wonderful.
you. Right. You have a great day.
You too. Take care, Phil. Bye bye.